Right. Getting everything up and moving, getting grooving, getting into the mooding. Oh yeah. You guys know what it is, don't you? Let's turn that up a little.
Are you looking at me? 'Cause I'm looking at you. It's easy to see what's happening.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate
Are
it.
you looking at me like
Let's give everybody a minute to get in here. Get joined in.
Are you looking at me? 'Cause I'm looking at you. It's easy to see what's happening.
Oh yeah. All right, I see a couple people getting in here. Good. 'Cause it's about that time. Oh, cheating with a little sugar to get me through the day. All right. Well, gents, you all know that this is Live with Jack. Hello, welcome to Live with Jack, number 87. Hi, I'm Jack. And today I'm going to be teaching you exactly how I plan a perfect date routine. And you're in luck because we also have some of our resident date planning experts coming in to join us as well. So make sure that you stay and enjoy this entire lesson to its fullest. But if you want to do that, if you truly want to enjoy it to the maximum, if you want to take this to the absolute tip top, to those Mount Everest peaks that you so seek, if you would like to reach the height of humanity, the culmination of all of civilization, then all you have to do, sir, is grab your glass, your mug, or your flask, a chalice, a stein, or even a cask, raise it high, and let's make a splash. It's time now for our libation bash. Toast the night and enjoy the mood. Together now, we drink some booze. On your mark, let's not wait. It's cheers with chaps, so don't be late. Cheers, boys. And cheers, Brandon. I see you in there. I see you back there. All right. So let's talk a little bit about planning the perfect date. How exactly do you plan the perfect date routine? Well, before we get into that, I'm going to tell you about one of the date routines that I had planned back when I was single and dating many different girls, and I knew how important the routine was. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. But let me tell you exactly what my plan was. I would always meet her a little bit later, about 8:30 or 9. And I would meet her somewhere where we could drink and maybe get a little bit of food. In Korea, that's quite common. Most of the bars serve food. They serve like some fried chicken or some French fries or something like that. So you can get some snacks, but more importantly, you can have a few drinks. And then we would move from there over to a local bar where then the mood was a bit different and we would have a few more drinks. And then we would move from the local bar back to my place, which was very conveniently just nearby. Because, I had to go walk my dog. Or we had started talking about my music career. And I said, oh, I'll play you a song. I'll play you a special concert just for you. Well, let me fix this. Fix this one a little bit. There we go. All right, good. So that they can get a clear view of me as well. So I had this perfect date routine set up. And what I found was that before, when I was just guessing and I was just trying to figure it out, or I would do something as silly as asking her what she wanted to do for the date, I would have about a 50 to 60% success rate on even just getting a second date, much less actually sealing the deal that night. But when I started planning out my date routine, when I knew exactly what I was doing before I even asked her out, then all of a sudden, my success rate on dates went up past 90%. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to teach you exactly how I did it so that you can do it too. First off, you need to understand that the routine is your wingman. The routine is there to help you because the routine never fails. The routine is always the same, or we're going to get into some of the variations a little bit later, but the routine is always the same, and it always, always, always helps you. So the reasons it helps you so much is because ownership is better than variables. You are owning every part of the date. You're owning choosing the things. You're owning the leadership. You know when to change venues. You know which venue you're going to next. You know how to get her out of that next venue and go back to your place if y'all want to do that, or how to then schedule and set up the next date and get all of that sorted out because you practiced it. One of the reasons that routine is so effective is because whenever guys go on dates, they get in their own heads and they get flustered by things and they start worrying about things like, oh, what should I say here? Or how do I respond to this? Or how do I know if she's having a good time? Or should I buy her drinks? Am I buying this one? And do we have to split pay? Because we're both feminists, we're both modern people, or whatever bullshit. And you get all in your head about stuff. Well, listen, the more variables you have, the more things that you're concerned with, the worse you're going to be for it. So what you want to do is you want to remove as many variables to your success as you possibly can. One of the best ways to do that is to remove the variable of where are we going, what are we doing? How do I know what she wants? How do I know that this is going to work? How do I know that this place is good? How do I know any of this stuff? Those are all different variables that you can take out of the equation. Thank you, Bento. That you can take out of the equation by planning your routine properly. So the variables and owning these different parts of it, that is so much better than just guessing every single time, no matter what. The next thing you want to consider is that you can be a social high roller, no matter who you are. Even if you're broke, it doesn't matter. We're going to get into how to choose the right places later. But, okay, all right, well, I see you. I see you there, the kid. I see you there, the kid. Wash your face, wake up a little bit, pour some coffee, and then hop on and join in. Okay, so where was I? Right. You can be a social high roller because you're choosing places that you are already known. You're a known variable as well to them. They know. They say, oh, this guy, he comes in, he spends money, he brings new people in, he brings new clients in. Listen, businesses love that. Businesses love that. There's no business in the world that gets mad whenever their customers are bringing in new people. Word of mouth and referral business is the golden ticket for businesses. So you're the kind of person who's constantly bringing in new people every week or even multiple times a week. They're going to love you. Plus, you get to make friends with them. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later as well. But you're going to have a high social status in the places you choose to go. And next, this one is something that a lot of guys struggle with. They struggle with being smooth, right? And that's one of those words kind of like creepy that nobody ever bothers to really define, but you know it when you see it, right? All that smooth means is it means well practiced. It means that you've done it many times. You already know what to do. You already know where you're going next. You know all of this stuff. And if you're well practiced, because it's a routine, so it's the same every time, then you're going to come off as very smooth, as very well put together, as strong, as in charge, as having good leadership abilities, something that is very attractive to women. So the routine is literally your wingman, making you look and seem even better than you beautiful guy, even better than you already are. Next, let's move on to scouting the field. How do you find and choose the right places for your routine? Well, the first thing that you're going to look for is you're going to look for the same style and energy that you have. This is going to be an important thing because a guy like me, man, I don't go to nightclubs. I don't want to go to nightclubs. Nightclubs hurt my ears. The drinks are too expensive. They always water them down, and everybody's kind of shitty. I don't want to do that. That place does not match my style and energy. Now, the dive bar down the street from the nightclub, now we're talking. What? 4 for $10 cocktails? Oh, buddy, you got me. Listen, and it's not just because of the price. It's because of the style of the bar and because of the energy of the bar. So you need to actually find the right places for you, the places where your energy and your style match that spot. This is going to be really important because you're going to walk in, you're already going to fit in socially, and the people there are already going to know you. The bartenders are going to know you. The staff at the door is going to know you. The waiters, waitresses, they're going to know you, and everybody's going to like you, but also you're going to fit in naturally and easily, and you're going to look like King Turd up on Shit Mountain, even if it's the nastiest dive bar in the world. Trust me, because that's what I used to do for my dates. So, the next thing, logistics of love. You might have noticed something whenever I gave you that little story earlier about the date routine. And what you might have noticed is that we started out a little bit further from my place, and then we went to the dive bar pretty close to my place, and the next is my place. Wow, it's almost like he planned this out. What a coincidence, right? Your logistics are king. And we talked about this last week, I think. Last week. Pretty sure it was last week. Anyway, we talked about this, and dealing with logistics can be an absolute nightmare. It can be an absolute headache and a killer to any success that you might have. But if you plan your date routine properly, then your logistics are excellent, and they will always work in your favor. Stacking the odds in your favor is always a good benefit when you're out on dates. The next thing that you need to look for is you need to look for a place that has the right bang for your buck. Whenever you're scouting places out, you're trying to figure out where they are. Well, sorry, where they are was the logistics, right? You need to figure out what order you want to go to places in, figuring out the right places that lead back to your place, right? Like Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs or something, right? Where they lead back. But figuring out the right price point, but also knowing what are you getting there? Because if you're just guessing, if you're just finding a place, if you just say, oh, I don't know, like we'll figure something out, we'll find something. All right, that's fine. And you can do that, but there are too many variables. You don't know the quality of what you're getting. You don't know what's going to be on the menu. You don't know if she says something like, oh, I'm allergic to peanuts. Do they have peanuts in their food? If you had already scouted the place out, you would know things like this if that's a common occurrence for you. But you also know not just the quality and what's on the menu, but you know what kind of price point you're dealing with. So if you're planning on going on lots of different dates, you want to push that price point down as much as you can without seeming like a complete cheap ass. Although, if I'm being entirely honest, I've had plenty of dates just in front of the convenience store as well. So, you know, your mileage may vary, though. So you knowing what you're going to get and how much you're going to have to pay for it is going to be an important thing about choosing the right locations. So whenever you're planning out a date night, you want to look at, okay, cool. If I'm paying for two people at these places, first of all, how many venues do I want? How much are we going to be having in each place roughly? What's my average date going to cost me? Okay, knowing that is going to be critical to make sure that you don't run dry on funds. Nothing more embarrassing in the world than going to pay for your date and your card getting declined. I should know. I've been there too. So definitely know what you're getting into before you go out on the date. Another benefit of the routine. Next, extra tips. Extra tips. Literally everywhere you go, everywhere that you want to bring in as part of your routine, you should be tipping your bartenders, tipping your wait staff, even in Korea. Like here in Korea, we don't really tip much, but listen, those bartenders, they pay attention to the people who do tip, right? In the West, it's common and it's just expected, but here it's not. And so all that it actually costs you is an extra $1, maybe a $5 here or there. And you just say, hey man, you're cool as hell. Look, I really appreciate you taking care of me here. Have an extra $5. I appreciate it. And oh, look at that. You've made friends. You make friends with the doorman. Whenever I go down to our favorite pub down in Hongdae, I walk up there, and no matter who I'm with, it doesn't matter who I'm with. I walk in, we skip the line, and they just high-five me. They're like, what's up, Jack? Yeah, come on in, come on in, come on. They're with you? Okay, yeah, come on in, come on in, come on in. Because you make friends with them. You make friends with the staff. You pay attention to them. You don't actually have to tip, but it's a good way to build that relationship very quickly. Everybody's motivated by money, after all, in some form or fashion. And finally, having backup plans. This is going to be an important part once you've figured out what your base routine is. You want to have a couple of backup plans. So maybe she's on her way to your first spot that you have planned already, and she says, listen, I was planning to have dinner earlier, but I just didn't have time. Is there any way at all that we can go to a restaurant instead of a pub? Like, I need to get some actual food in me before we start drinking for the night. Cool. You know what? I know just the place. Meet me at this spot. Excellent. Because you already have the backup plan ready. You already know a good restaurant in town. You already know how that's going to lead to the next, to the next, to the next. And you already know the quality and the price of what you're going to get there. Plus, if it's in your locale, which hopefully it is, then you also are probably a regular, and they probably know you, and they probably want to help you out as well. We're going to get a little bit more into that later on, but having a backup location or having a place, maybe you walk into the dive bar and it's flooded, then that's cool. Listen, I know this really cool lounge bar down the way that has excellent whiskey or whatever. You know some extra places where you are already integrated into the culture there, where you already have that social status, all of that stuff. Here, let's put this up here. Yeah, it's truly a different experience going from having to wait in line, take out your ID, and walk into a new place knowing the doorman and skipping the line with a high five. 0 to hero status. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Crow. So that's what I was talking about up here, about being a social high roller. Do you know how much it costs me to walk into Corner Pub without waiting in line, without having to ever show my ID? None of the people I'm with get ID'd either. Do you know how much that costs me? Fucking nothing. Nothing. It just takes a little bit of time to befriend the staff, to be a regular there, to always talk to them, to always say, oh, hey, man, how are you doing? Oh, listen, they told me last week was your birthday. Why didn't you tell me? Here, listen, I got you a little something. And you just give them like a Starbucks gift card or something, right? Maybe, if you feel like it. If you feel like it. You don't even have to. All that it really costs you, all that it really takes is just that extra social interaction, making friends with them, not looking past them like most people do. Most people look at them as almost part of the furniture of the bar, just somebody who's here just doing a job. But talk to them, treat them like people, and they're going to love you for it. Now, let's move on to the next part of planning your perfect date. Knowing when to bounce. This is really important for not just your routine, but also then how do you know when is enough and ready to move back to yours, instead of, well, maybe we need a couple more drinks, maybe we need a little more time, maybe we need a little more connection. How do you know when to move from one venue to the next? How do you know when to move from the last venue back home? That's what all of this is about. The first thing you need to do is you need to pay attention to body language. You need to pay attention to body language. Changing venues is very, very powerful if she's starting to feel a little bit bored. Maybe you took her to a pub with a life-size Jenga game. Okay, cool. How many times in a row do you think you can do that before she's like, okay, but, right? You know, maybe one, maybe two. And then after that, she's just like, look, let's do something else. Let's do something fun. Cool. You need to know when to bounce. Pay attention to her body language. If you can see her kind of getting a little bit deflated and then she says something, oh, I'm a little bit, I'm feeling a little bit tired, whatever. Listen, a venue change, it basically starts you back over at square one with energy, but with all of the progress and things that you've made and the connection that you've made in the first venue, or from the second to the third, it's the same way, right? So pay attention to her body language. Now, whenever it comes to the end of the night, pay attention to how she's interacting with you physically. What is she showing you? What is she doing? Is she getting close to you? Is she starting to talk a little softer? Is she starting to get that mood moving? If so, she's dropping the hints to let you know it's time. Let's go. Or is she turned away and is she Oh yeah, yeah. I've had fun. I've had fun, right? Then she hasn't had fun. Pay attention to the body language. That's going to be very important in understanding if she's bored, if she just needs more time, if she's ready to go. And another way that you can tell if she's having fun. Oh well, let's come back to that, I guess, because another way you can tell if she's having fun or if she just needs more time is your friendly neighborhood chat-o-meter. If she's talking a lot, relax. You don't need to change venues yet. You don't need to move yet. You don't need to go anywhere yet. If she's going on and on and on and she's having a great time and she's using a lot of body language, and if she's showing all of this stuff and she's being really expressive, then you don't need to worry anymore about whether or not she's having fun, whether or not she's having a good time, whether or not you need to change venues and move it along. And remember, you don't have to hit every stop in your routine either. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Knowing when to skip one part and go to the next. Maybe you skip the middle bar and you go straight to the little dive bar next to your place or the convenience store. Maybe you just go straight back to yours. You need to understand what the situation is and be able to read that. Her chat-o-meter is going to help you a lot with understanding that. The next thing to consider is drink control. Now, this is a bit hypocritical coming from me because this is not a thing that I'm very good at. Speaking of which, cheers. And for those of you who made it late, I see some of you guys came in a little bit late. Cheers. However, pay attention to the drinks, because if she's just running through the drinks and she's little, be careful. She might, in that case, she's either irresponsible, doesn't know her own limits, or is just there to get as fucked up as possible for free. Be very careful with that. Now, if she's drinking really slowly, then maybe she's not having a great time there. So that could give you an indication that it's time to move on to the next venue. One of the things that you can do to plan that better is to try to, even if you're drinking faster than she is, you want to try to time yours to finish about the same time as hers. Whether that's her first drink, her second drink, or however many it is. You can time them to finish at the same time, and that gives you a natural moment to say, like, hey, we're finished with these. What do you say we move on to the next place? Yeah, that sounds good. You can use that as a way to springboard into the next venue as well. So pay attention to the drinks. Make sure that she's not getting too fucked up. And you too, don't get so fucked up that you cock block yourself. You don't want to do that. The next thing, like I was saying earlier, the staff are your wingmen. The staff, the door guy, he's going to make you seem like an absolute king when you walk into the place, when you skip the line, when you don't have to show ID. He's going to make you look like a king. Whenever you're in a restaurant and the waiters or waitresses come over and they're like, oh, Jack, you want the usual, right? Yeah, I sure do. How'd you know? And then they bring over a nice whiskey neat, or maybe with one of those nice whiskey ice cubes in it. Good. Excellent. So you seem to have higher social status because of that. The bartenders, whenever you walk in and they're like, first drink's on me. Don't worry about it, man. You're good. Whoa, hey, who are you? What's going on here? The staff are your wingmen, or they're your worst enemy. This is an important thing to note, because you need to, first of all, get to know your staff. Make friends with them, get friendly with them, because they can either make your date amazing or they can tank you so fast that you're going to be one of those submarines down there searching for the Titanic. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. I've had this happen, not to me, but to a guy who I was coaching. And he told me that he went on a date. He kept going to this same pub with a different girl, maybe like 3 or 4 different girls a week. And on his 3rd or 4th date at this same pub, he got up to go to the bathroom. And one of the waitresses came over to the girl and was like, hey, you know, he's such a bad guy. He has a different girl in here every night of the week. Like, oh my God. When he came back, The girl was packing up her shit and getting ready to go. Why? Because he ignored this rule. He didn't make friends with the staff. But if you do make friends with the staff, they will be your wingmen and they will help you every single time because they like you. They want you to succeed. So treat the staff like your friends because they are your friends and your wingmen. Next, this is how you actually personalize a date. This may sound counterintuitive because you're creating a date routine. So it's not really personalized, is it? It's the same for every girl, right? And you just go to the same places and have the same conversations and do the same things. It doesn't have to be. And personalizing a date and making it more interesting is going to help you with guaranteeing your second date. We're going to get to that in a minute. But before you can do any of that, the most important thing you need to do is you need to know her type. I forget the order that I have written these in. Hey, duct tape production. You need to know her type. Really, this is critical because the way that you're going to go to a pub with an alcoholic is totally different from how you're going to go to the same pub with a shy girl, which is totally different from how you're going to go to the same pub with a worker bee, right? So pay attention. You need to know her type. And if you don't yet know about the 14 different types, if you don't yet know how to identify them and what the keys to sealing the deal with them are, you need to go over to realjacknorth.com right there. You can read about them for free. And to help you plan your perfect date routine, you can hit the button that says book a free call, and you can get a one-on-one strategy session with me where I will help you personally plan your date routine or whatever it is that you're struggling with right now. But you need to know her type. And this is going to be really critical because you need to plan the correct who, when, and where to make love happen. Oh, isn't that cute? Seriously, though, picking the right places, even from among your backups if you need to, picking the right places for the right types of girls is going to make a big difference. Picking the right times as well. So, whenever I said earlier that in my date routine, I was meeting girls a bit later. I was meeting them at like 8:30 or 9. Well, that was not intentional for me. That was because of virtue of my schedule. So I couldn't meet them earlier. Meeting girls at 8:30 or 9 straight away for drinks is not ideal for the types of girls that I was trying to attract. Where I was looking for prudes, shy girls, and worker bees, that's a hard sell. Except maybe here in Korea, where your worker bees also have a shit schedule. So for them, 8:30, they're like, okay, good. That gives me like 30 minutes after I finish work before I get there. Cool. So that can work out okay. But you need to know all this stuff. You need to know who your types are. You need to know what their situation is. And you need to be able to plan that accordingly. Planning the right who, the when, the where is going to be really important to making this thing happen. Here's a fun little sidebar for you. One of the reasons I was able to make this work despite my shitty schedule and taking them to a shitty dive bar, like it was really bad. It was really dirty, but didn't matter. Had the right energy, had the right style. I loved it. So one of the ways that I was able to do that was at the time, The Greatest Showman was still very popular. And for who knows what reason, it just blew up here in Korea, and especially the music from it. And so I would always make a reference to that. And I would say something like, oh, let's go live like the other side for a night. Let's go see how the poor folk live, right? And she would be like, what? What are you talking about? Oh, that sounds so interesting. Wait, we have dive bars? We have poor people bars here? Yeah, we do. How do you know? Google. No, I was just having fun with it. But seriously, things like that to play to the who, because I knew the types that I was trying to attract. They all knew The Greatest Showman. They all loved that shit. So using that as part of the sales pitch, made it work really well. Next, you need to guarantee a second date. How do you guarantee a second date? Well, here's how you guarantee a second date. You need to be the one who she remembers. Know this. a girl in her lifetime is going to go on more than one date. Shocker. I know. In fact, these days, a girl might go on more than one date a week or even a night. So, with that in mind, how can you be the one who stands out? How can you be the one who 10 years later, she's, off doing something else, or maybe she's still with you, and she's saying, my God, man, that date was crazy. Listen, did I ever tell you about the time that I went on a date with this guy named Jack? God, it was wild. Do you know what we did? He did it. You want to be the one that she remembers. You want to be more interesting than anyone else. You want to make it better. You want to make it more extra. You want to make it more exciting. You want to make it unforgettable. You want to, callback, be the greatest showman. You want to be that guy because she will always remember that guy. And here's the thing. If she remembers your date, and I mean in a good way, like she would remember your date if you like farted on her head and then puked on her, right? Like, but that's not what you want. So if she remembers your date in a good way, guaranteed she's going to want a second date. It's a guarantee because you brought more excitement into her life than anybody else because you made things better. You made them more interesting. You made funnier jokes, or you brought her to cooler places, or you showed her something she's never seen, or you took her to something that she had totally forgotten that she loved as a child, or whatever. It doesn't matter, but it just needs to be a date that she remembers. So, to exactly that point, you can, if you know your types correctly, you can substitute something in as part of your backup plans for your routine. Now, you're introducing more variables by doing that, by calling an audible and making a substitution there. But if the rest of your routine is solid, then it shouldn't make any difference. But you can do this to make it more interesting, taking her to an arcade. I know that Crow likes to take girls over to the arcade. I used to take girls on ice cream dates, things like that. And it sounds stupid, but also it's really interesting and it's really strange because most guys will do like, oh, let's go have dinner and then we can chat and get to know each other. And it's like, yeah, no, you're not. No, you're not. What a fucking waste. What a waste of time. We're all just going through the motions here. This is nothing. But you take her to an ice cream date, as lame as it sounds, that's more interesting. That breaks the pattern. It breaks her expectations. And everybody likes ice cream, right? Everybody likes ice cream. So, or anything else. Take her to mini golf. Take her to the arcade. Take her to a dog cafe. Take her to a farm. One of my coaching clients a couple of weeks ago, he's like, listen, I have a date planned for this girl, and I guarantee it's a date she's never going to forget. And I was like, okay, cool. What do you have planned? And he's like, we're going to a farm. I was even blown away. I was like, what in the world is he on about? Apparently, out there in England, they have these like touristy farms that you can go to where they've got like petting zoos set up and you can ride the horses and you can play with some of the different animals and all sorts of stuff. Looked actually pretty cool. He sent me some pictures of it. It was an excellent date. So, hey, look at that. It worked. So you can call an audible when you know the type, but you want to be memorable. Another thing I put down here, unleash your inner tiger. This is an example of something that I did to be memorable. So dressing up in funny costumes or wearing silly hats together or getting stupid masks together or insisting that everybody on the date wears, and by everybody, hopefully it's just the two of you, right? Wears animal print or something like that. Things like this, adding in extra conditions, an extra challenge or something like that. This will make the date instantly from the get-go. It'll make it more interesting and it'll make it more memorable so that you will be the one that she remembers, right? Another thing you can do to guarantee the second date here, by the way, is if she doesn't come back to yours at the end of the date. So if you go for it and she's resistant, she says, oh, no, you know what? Not today, but maybe next time. Like, let's talk about it next time. Then you can jump into, okay, cool. So in that case, let me ask you a question. What are you doing tomorrow? She says, oh, I have this thing planned. He's like, no, you don't. Listen, we have our second date. Or it doesn't have to be the next day, right? You can do whatever you want with that. But you can actually semi-schedule the next date while you're still on that date. If you do it right, this doesn't look needy. If you do it in a way that's like, oh, okay, cool. So you don't want to bang tonight, but you do want to keep dating. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and sort that out now before my schedule fills up. So how about on this day? Let's do this day. Let's do this time. No. Forget those plans. That thing doesn't matter. I'm way more interesting and I'm way more fun. And if you have been, if you genuinely have been, if you've been interesting, she will. She'll make it work. The last thing I put down here are Easter eggs. This was a trademark of Stallion's for a while. He would do this on dates, is he would create something special, maybe something for them to find that he had hidden in some place if he was doing like a daytime date, or maybe they would get some sort of commemorative thing made, or maybe they would bring in something else, something like that he would create some kind of special memory with that girl on the day. And that's another way to be memorable and to guarantee the second date. Because again, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's personalized, it's special, it's all of that stuff. And that is exactly how you plan a perfect date routine. So, with all that said, the kid, you need to hurry up and get on, because we are about to jump into the live portion of today's segment. Before we do that, however, a little admin, a little house business to take care of. First off, if you haven't done it yet, please hit the like button, because it really does help a whole lot. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that yet too, because it makes a big difference. It makes YouTube think that we're really cool. We're the cool kids now. Wow, watch out, we're coming for you. Started at the bottom, now we're here. Hey. And if you don't need the link, the kid. Use my login. I need you there so that you can bring people in. The kid. I thought you Zoomers were good with technology. You're going to make me Hulk out. But if you haven't done this yet, you can go over right now to realjacknorth.com and you can sign up for a free call with me today, where I will help you plan your perfect date or help you with whatever other dating issues you are struggling with. Whether that's a girl who you like and you don't know how to talk to her about it, you don't know how to ask her out, whether it's you don't know any girls, but you want to try to find some, whether it's you're in a relationship now and I don't know, things are kind of dying out, the spark is fading, what can I do to fix this? I deal with all sorts of stuff with all sorts of clients from literally all around the world. Having now, does New Zealand counts as part of Oceania, right? It has to, right? So now with that in, I have serviced somebody from every continent on the planet. So literally worldwide. Go over to realjacknorth.com right now. Sign up for your free call today, and I will see you in there. So with that said, let's move on down to the party seat. You guys know the party seat? That's where the magic happens. Oh, shit. All right. The kid, have you still not figured it out yet? I sent you the info. Can you do it? Oh, no. Have I forgotten my light? Good. While the kid is getting this figured out, I'm going to get my cool background light. Where'd I put it? There we are. Duct tape. Okay. So the kid, you can bring yourself and Brandon in now. Can you do it? You need help, big guy? You need help getting set up?
Okay, I think I figured it out.
There you are, attaboy.
Okay.
So proud of you. Look at that. Oh. All right. let's get this one straightened up a bit too. We're a little wobbly, but whatever. It'll be fine. How are you guys doing here? You know what?
Man.
Let's put you like this so that we can see Big Brandon as well. Move my camera down. Okay, good. Coot! Why are you late? You must have been late because you had a date. That's the only good reason to ever be late for Live with Jack. So, today we have a very special guest. We have Brando, who's joining us. And you guys may have seen him in some of our other live streams that he and I have done together. But also, he was very, very good at crafting a date routine. So let's start with that. You were coding like a nerd? Okay, let's start with that. So first of all, what were your thoughts on what I had to say here? Because I was giving my experience and thoughts on it. Based on your experience, what did you agree or disagree with?
I agreed with all of it, actually. I think maybe I thought some parts were more important than others, and like some details I would have emphasized more.
Sure.
But I think you were spot on with everything, like
what?
Logistics matter. Like tailoring your date for the type of girl you're with.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that comes from experience. Because you really, it's one thing to know the types, it's another to know.
Go ahead. Uh-oh. Did we lose you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah.
Is it still good?
Yeah. You're fine.
Okay.
All right. It comes with experience.
Yeah, so tailoring your date for each girl kind of goes with it. I think one thing that's important to mention is, what's your intention with the date?
Sure.
Because that can really change what you're doing. I think a lot of guys, and this kind of includes me, I think the really easy mistake to make early on is you think the date is to get her to like you more.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that's what it's about, actually. It's like, it is, but not really.
Not really.
There's that component, because if you want to see her a second time, obviously she has to like you. But it's like, it backfires a lot, because you think, in trying to get her to like me, I'm going to find out what she likes and give her that. And, I think we all know that doesn't work, because what happens is she's looking for leadership, and then you end up deferring that to her, and then she hates it, and then she thinks, oh, you're not really a man, and she gets these weird vibes from you. And it doesn't really work. So I think the question shouldn't be, how do I get her to like me more? It should be, how do I get what I want out of this date? And it's easier said than done. I think, mentally, I think that takes quite a few dates and failures to understand that's actually what it's about. Because it's one thing to think oh yeah, this is about what I want, but I still want to make sure the date goes well. And so you do all these things, and then you think you did everything right, and then the girl ghosts you after the first date or something. And then you thought, hey, I thought if I played it safe, she'd want to see me the second time. And stuff like that.
Playing it safe never works.
What was that?
In any situation. Yeah.
Yeah, almost never. Yeah.
You're always better with just a go big or go home attitude. Because that's where the actual magic happens. That's where the interesting part is. If you're just playing it safe, then you're doing the same shit as everybody else. And if it's safe, then it's common. And if it's common, then it's boring. So definitely not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that you touched on something important there, which is the idea of wanting to get her to like you, which is that's a mental trap that guys fall into all the time, especially early on, and especially when they're younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's the completely wrong way to look at things. Dates they're about getting to know each other, kind of, not really. It's more just about seeing if there is chemistry there, or
Yeah.
you can create or find some chemistry there.
Mm-hmm.
Finding things in common rather than getting to know her.
Right. Yeah. Like almost the worst thing you could do is try to get to know her on the first date, and it's more like a vibe check. It's like,
Yeah.
is your vibe good? Like, are our vibes good?
Yeah.
Do I like spending time with you? Do I not like? Is it a freaking drag? So am I like dragging you across a desert to try and get you to talk to me? Am I talking to a wall? Are you fun to talk to? I mean, like I said, that all comes from experience, but I think the bigger point is, well, like, why do guys think they need her to like you? And I think actually where that comes from is that they don't have enough dates lined up that week. Because if you have, like let's say you had a date every single day this week and next week, and it looks like the third week's going to be the same thing, you stop like caring as much, you know? You stop being like, okay, like, I don't really care if you like me or not because I'm going to see another girl tomorrow and the day after that. It's like a total mind shift. And then you start thinking, well, what do I want right now? It's like, you know, you're kind of attractive. I want to see if I can get you back to my place. Right. And I think for me, over time, it became more about screening and just honestly, like just getting a yes or no answer from her sooner. Because like I wasn't necessarily like, I'm talking earlier, like when I first started, it was more about just getting the lay. Like I didn't really care if I saw her again. And this goes with like all girls, like just first date. I was like the king of first dates almost. And I couldn't get a second date just because of how I was doing it. But that's another topic. But what I realized.
Hold on. You cut out there for a second.
It's best to get a yes or a no for her right away. And so for me, I was just trying to get laid, and it was just like, all right, we're 20 minutes into the date. You know I'm a normal person. I'm not going to take you home and murder you. I wouldn't say that, obviously, but I just straight up ask her, hey, do you want to watch a movie? It's like 20 minutes into the date.
Yeah.
I'm asking her back to my place already.
Sure.
And, you know, honestly, that worked very well. That worked like maybe 60% of the time, actually. They'd come back. They wouldn't always hook up because they don't know me. They don't trust me. And that was another thing.
Sure.
But, yeah, I think the more dates you have, the more comfortable you feel like burning that bridge, because right over there is another bridge. You know, and past that one's another bridge, and et cetera, et cetera.
I think even more than that, though, the real symptom below all of that of wanting to know how can I get her to like me, the real issue is that these guys don't feel like they like themselves, or they don't feel like they're worthy, or that they don't believe that a girl like this would actually like me, or something like that. And so they almost act as if, well, obviously, I have to trick her or do something different to get her to like me, when it's the total opposite, actually.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel comfortable and confident in yourself, when you're actually congruent, like I've talked about for almost 2 years straight on these streams now, then you don't care if somebody likes you or not. Let me take it to the other end of the spectrum and say, like, the homeless fuckers down at Hongdae Park or over at Seoul Station, do they care if you like them or not? Not even a little bit.
No.
Not even a little bit. Why? Because it's like, look, this is who I am. This is what I am. You don't have to like it, but also I'm not going to change for you. I'm not saying to become homeless, but I am saying to develop that level of self-assuredness and confidence in yourself, in what it is that you do. I used to take my guitar out on first dates strapped to my back. And whenever a girl asked me, like, oh, why do you have a guitar? Did you just come from practice or something? I'd say, oh, no. I just brought it out because if our date sucks, then I'm just going to go and play music on the street instead, because at least that's fun. And they were all just like, wait, what? Like, hold on a minute. Am I the one who has to make you like me? Oh, no. Oh, how the turntables. But, like, that wasn't, it wasn't a bit. It wasn't like a shtick. It actually just was, because, like, well, look, if I'm already going out, then if a date goes bad, at least I can do something that I like while I'm there. And I can just set up some corner and play music, make a little money, have fun, make some new friends. Like, to me, it was just actually a plan B. And that freaked them out.
So, okay, I have a question. I have a point to that, and then I want to make a question. One thing I'll say is, at the beginning, I'm not. I think it would be a mistake for guys to think they absolutely need that. It's probably necessary overall, but for your first few dates, I would actually say your biggest thing you need to do is just ask her to come back with you. That should be your only focus. Until you've had like several dates and you feel somewhat like okay asking that question. You might still be a little bit nervous, but I think the initial hurdle is to just ask her back, because a lot of guys feel too nervous to do that. And then it just goes to second, third, fourth, fifth dates and nothing's happening. And it's really just because they're afraid to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So I think for the first few dates, like first dates, not with the same girl, just be comfortable, just ask her back. But okay, so my question is, that's just my opinion. You can disagree with that if you want to disagree with that, you can.
Yeah, I feel like definitely for some people that is the correct answer. I would say wherever you're feeling that you're hitting a wall, wherever you're feeling like things aren't working right, that's the part you need to work on, right? Like for a guy who can't carry a conversation for more than 5 minutes, then jumping to asking her back to his place is like,
okay.
That's a bad idea, right? Like let's start with our ABCs before we start with Tolstoy, right? Now, if everything is going well and you're getting through the date, but then you're just never getting laid, like if that's where your roadblock is, then yeah, that's the one that you need to work on, right? And a lot of guys, you're right, a lot of guys get there. They get into that dating hell.
I think, I'd agree with that. Like, to find out what your constraint is and go into the date, I think probably the best goal you can have for the date is defining some sort of like result you want from it. It doesn't have to be a lay if that's your problem. Like I said, for me, it was just, I just need to ask her. Like if I asked her, she doesn't have to come back. I'm just happy I asked. Finding some sort of results you're 100% in control of, because you don't know how she's going to be. You don't know if she's going to be a weirdo, if she's going to like you, even like there's so many things you can't control.
Sure.
But sometimes just saying, I want to end this date and be happy about my effort in this date. And that's how you measure how well your dates go. I think that's like a really healthy sort of way of looking at it that makes you not as needy on the date, because she's free to respond. You're just trying to do your best.
Yeah.
Question I had for you, because you're talking about congruence, confidence, like yeah, like if this date doesn't go well, I'm just gonna go play my guitar. I believe it when you say it, but I think a lot of people will look at that and be like, okay, that's great, but I know you could pull that off, but how do I pull that off?
Well,
like how does the person go from, well, man, I'm just hoping she comes out on a second date with me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you don't, right? Like when I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying that that's so far down the priority ladder that like I didn't even put it on the board, right? None of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, okay, so I'm on date 426 reporting in. Today is March 23rd of 2018 or whatever, right? Like where it's just like just another date. It's just another thing. And, you know, you don't know. Obviously, you give every date your go because you might meet somebody good. But when you get to that point, then you have to find ways to keep it fun and entertaining for you. And also, when you get to that point, you know that if a date is going bad, it's not because you're shit at your part of the date, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you are at that point and you're just finding ways to entertain yourself, or you're like, right, okay, well, turns out she was a closet feminist. Okay, well, you know what? It's been fun. Here, I've got these drinks, but have a good one.
Right.
Nana and I are going to go off and play some guitar on the street, but, you know, see you later. You know,
yeah.
But that's only once you're at that point. And so don't do that. Don't go out and buy a guitar to bring along as your plan B. That's absolutely not going to work unless it honestly is your plan B, right? Like you have to already be there. This is why the congruence thing that I keep coming back to is so important, because if you try to just do the things I do to have the things I have, but without being the person who does those things to have those things, then it doesn't work, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the video that I made about Be Do Have, or maybe you read the article on the blog as well, where I went into depth about that, about the idea of like, I've had guys email me and say like, oh, Jack, I did the thing that you said you did on a date and it didn't work. So obviously you're full of shit. And I'm like, no, you missed the entire fucking point. You picked out one detail. Like if somebody watched this whole video and ignored all of that other advice and they were like, right, guitar on my back for the date. Got it. Right? Like you've missed the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you do stuff that would never work for me. And it's just because it's just not who I am. Like I'm not that kind of person to try to think just like I mean some
By the way,
shit you do.
The kid, you can click in the comments as well. I don't even know if the kid's there or if he's just like passed back out or something.
I'm still awake. Still alive.
Huh?
I'm still alive.
He's alive.
Okay, yeah. You can click in the comments. Like Coot and Adam had some comments in there. This is actually why I needed you logged in as me, because if I'm set up over here, I cannot click them. Yeah. But that's the same for everybody, right? Like there are things that Rich does that I could never pull off, and things that I pull off that Rich could never do. And we're both very good. Like we both do this for a living, right? So it's that is very much based on the different style of different guys as well. So Coot says, basically, do what you want and bring her along for the ride. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, with some minor modifications of do things that you want, but also that are going to have some appeal to her, right? Because you don't want to take her to your favorite local comic book shop unless she's also into comics. Like, keep that stuff separate. Make sure that you look at the Venn diagram of what you're interested in and what she's interested in. Find that overlap, and that's your magic zone. And then take her to those things. You lead the way, and these are things that you want to do anyway because they're things you like doing. But don't go the wrong way with it, right? Don't take that advice to the extreme. Adam, you just got home. You're too late, man. That's okay. You can watch from the beginning later on. And yeah, closet feminists are absolutely a real thing. A lot of people these days don't want to use the word because they can't get a date if they use it. So, yep, you got to keep your eye out for those.
We're also in Korea. I think dating in Korea is a little bit different. Not too different, actually, but just like the mindset of girls is a little bit more conservative.
Yeah. Well, and definitely the mindset of guys is. So, for the most part, any girl who identifies herself outright as a feminist, it's like, oh, okay, cool. No Korean guy is ever going to date you. Like, that's just off the table now.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely something to that.
So, a question I kind of have.
Sure.
So as you talked about, okay, so like maybe whipping out the guitar, being at that sort of level of congruence is like down the list of priorities. What do you say are like the most, maybe to pick an arbitrary number, like top 3? Like, if you're going on a date, you have to bring this to the table for it to go well for you.
You need to be comfortable with yourself, like know who you are, and hopefully like who you are, but at the very least be comfortable with it and own those parts of yourself, the good and the bad. That's going to be really important, because if you feel the need to lie on a date, people can sniff that out. They can sniff it out from a mile away.
Especially girls.
Yeah, especially girls.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's also one of the reasons why, you know, like on these streams or whatever, like, I could have, for simplicity's sake, told that story earlier about the farm date and been like, oh, this funny date when I took a girl on to a farm, and like, but it's not real, and it's not my story. And I don't feel like I need to tell that. I have plenty of stories of my own. I'm not too worried about that. And if you don't feel comfortable with who you are or what you're doing or where you are in life, you need to at least acknowledge that and say that, right? You can even say that on it. You know, if she says something like, what do you do? And you're like, well, to be honest, I'm in a bit of a weird transition phase right now. Like, I have been doing this for a long time, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like where it's landed me, and I don't like what it's made me. So I'm thinking of changing to this. Do you know anything about this kind of field or something like that? You can use that as part of your conversation starter. When you're so deeply comfortable with your good and bad and all of the in-between, when you just acknowledge it all, at the very least, then people get that, like, they can feel that, and that reality, that honesty. I think that's absolutely the number one thing that you have to be able to bring to it.
Okay.
Number 2 would be knowing what you're looking for. At least most of what you're looking for. So if you're, welcome back, boys. Hello. If you're just looking to get laid, then know that and try to meet the girls for that and plan your date around that. And if you're looking for the love of your life, then know that. try to find the right girls for that, plan your dates around that. You need to know what you're looking for, because too many guys go out on dates or get on dating apps or try to talk to girls, and they're honestly just looking for fucking anyone, right? Like, I don't know. Do you think she'll touch my willy? Okay, no. How about if I buy her another drink? Then what? Right? Like, and it's not. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well. When the topic of exes comes up, it's easy to shut it down. I'm not sure I understand the context there, but okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know that one either.
All right. Maybe you can give us a little more explanation or context there. Yeah, so I think that's the second thing, is knowing who and what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then your third thing that you need to be able to bring to the table is honestly just decent social skills. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a master. Despite what I say, in all of these lessons, and anybody who's ever been a teacher knows this, is that whenever you're teaching something, you always over-exaggerate it, because your students will copy you about 50%. And so you want to get them to there. So whenever I talk about being the most interesting and having the most epic date and doing this and that and all of this stuff, okay, well, that honestly is kind of true to who I am and how I act. But you don't have to be all of that, and you don't have to be the smoothest person. You don't have to have the best jokes, and you don't have to have the best anything. You just need to be fairly competent. So if you watched all of my live streams and you only copied them 50%, you would absolutely be like a top 3% man easily. Easily. Yeah. So just have some basic social skills. Be a 10% man and you're solid, 3% and you can write your ticket.
I think it's shocking. Like, I think everyone thinks they have to be in the top 1% or top 0.1% to get all the girls. But like, honestly, I think if you're in the top 10%, you'll never be wanting for a girlfriend. It looks like if you know how to talk to girls and like you're in the top 10%, like you'll be more than fine. Way more than fine. Yeah.
Definitely if you're in like a global top 10%. If you're in a top 10% locally, that still puts you at a 9 in social skills, which that's insane, right? When you're speaking about an uncomfortable topic, you can easily just say, let's just not talk about this. It's not fun. You can. I wouldn't go that way personally. That feels like you're hiding something, or like I don't want to tell you that I used to be married and I have 3 kids by as many different baby mamas and stuff like that. I would be cautious with that. The way that I would go with that instead is you can also, like, you can still shut it down and not talk about it if you want. If you wanted to do that, what I would do is I would agree and amplify, and I'd be like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's talk about our exes. Let's talk about deaths of loved ones and family pets. Let's talk about genocide as well. We can talk about all sorts of really fun, interesting topics. Or Jenga, right? Like I would blow it up into something stupid and then turn it around if you really feel like you need to avoid it. But if you don't have anything particular to hide there, then I would just be like, I mean, if there's something specific you want to know, you can ask me, but I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I think if you don't feel good talking about your exes, I think maybe that means you still have some like things you have to deal with mentally about your last breakup or your ex, because
Yeah.
I know from girls telling me this too, that they will ask you just to kind of see what kind of person you are.
Sure.
Like,
Keep going, Brandon.
why? Like, what was your last relationship like? How long did it last? It only lasted like 2 months. They're gonna think that's a little bit weird and kind of put you in a box. Or they're gonna label that. They're gonna label you as some sort of person who, oh, that's weird. How come he's never been in a long-term relationship? What's wrong with this person? It's almost bad. So I think, honestly, like, I think the best answer is like, oh yeah, like, what, or like, how long was your relationship? Just like, oh, it was like a year. She was really great, but we were just different people. And then you just end it.
Yeah. Either that, or you can go kind of the other direction and be like, well, any relationship I had with somebody I broke up with was obviously too long. So that's how long it was. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Girls especially respond really well to things like that, of like fake wisdom or like solipsistic shit, you know? How long was it?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, since we broke up, it was too long. Like, oh, okay. No, if there's a question that they have, if they say something like, how long was your longest relationship? I mean, if you want, you can, if you just really want to avoid that, you could give them a range. You could be like, longer than a year, less than a lifetime. But
oh, it's about her ex.
Oh, her ex. Well, then, wait. If she's bringing up her ex on the date, that's a way bad sign, buddy. That's a way bad sign. Oh, no. Right? Like, you don't want that. You don't want that at all. Imagine if you were interviewing somebody for a job, and in the interview, they were like, oh, my God, yeah, like, you seem like so much cooler, but, like, my last place that I worked, oh, it was awful. Like, the manager, he would, like, get mad at me for being, like, just 10 minutes late. Like, oh, my God. Like, what a dick. What? No, don't do that. So this might be a problem that the girl's having. So in that case, yeah, you can shut it down if you want, but I'd probably shut down the whole date at that point.
Really?
Yeah, red flags. Crow knows what's up.
I guess it depends what you're looking for. I mean, for me, I think I would see like, oh, this is weird for a relationship for someone to talk that much about their ex. Maybe they're not over them. But if it was just like, well, I'm probably just going to bang her tonight and that's it.
Sure.
I mean, I don't care, but.
Yeah, I guess so. The kid, did you have some questions for today?
I would say, how do I put it? When it comes to your routine and you're like, let's say should you optimize purely for logistics on your routine, or should you be leveraging mainly just to kind of do whatever you want? Like, what's better?
The answer is yes, right? So in an ideal situation, you can find a nice set of things where you're starting in one place, maybe doing something fun you want during, let's say that you're going for a date on a Saturday and you guys are going out for the day. Okay. So you can start the daytime date farther away from your place. So this was exactly the advice I gave to Farm Boy, who took the girl on the date to the farm. He told me that he was thinking about doing it, and I was like, okay, here's how you plan it then. Figure out where you're staying and figure out where the farm is. That's your furthest spot away. Now, from there, you move closer in as the day goes on. So you finish at the farm, and then you guys have lunch, and then you go to some activity, and then you have dinner, and then you have drinks at the pub right above your apartment, right? Like, you move inward as you go through the date, but you're still doing the things that you want to do.
Mhm.
Now, if there's something that you really want to do, but it's bad logistics, then cool. You just tell her, by the way, listen, I don't know if you're going to be cool enough to get this far or not, but if you do, I have something really exciting planned for our 4th date. So I hope that you're the kind of girl who's going to stick around for a bit, because this is going to be a blast. And you basically just save that thing for when you can have a date and the logistics don't matter, because it's already a sure thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think like as time goes on, it's safe to vary it, but until you feel comfortable with what you're doing, you shouldn't vary your dates up too much, especially the first and the second one.
Mm-hmm.
They should be pretty routine because I don't know, I think you're just trying to get better at it and control the controllables. And there's something to be said of like having the exact same date a number of that's happening.
You cut out.
Sorry, like being able to pick up micro details with the girl. Like, oh, that's weird. Her leg's doing this. All the other girls' legs never did that. I wonder what that means. Right? It's like such a small detail, but you can make reads like that into the girl if you've had the same date over and over.
Yeah.
It's like, do what you want. Like, I'd still agree with that. I just think if you're going to vary it, just be aware that, it's like your conversion rate might go down a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're planning to get laid, if like you're going to mess up your logistics for that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, do what you want. It's your life, really. Like,
yeah. Well, and I mean, it's the same thing with sales, the kid, where it's like, okay, cool. We have the script. Now, your first 10 times, you just follow the script. And then 11 through 20, you might deviate a little bit and add in a little more human stuff. And then after 21 or so, then you already know what bullet points and signposts you're going to hit along the way. So you can kind of like move in and out a little bit. And then when you're on sales call number 100, then you're like, no, listen, we can, if you want, we can talk about the pink hat for an hour. I already know you're still going to buy it. It doesn't matter, right? Because you already know all of the different things subconsciously. So to answer your question, I gave you a more direct answer to here is exactly what you're asking. This is exactly the thing without any other information available. And Brandon's answer was more like on a progression timeline.
Yeah.
Where, of course, the better you get at something and the more practice you have with it, the more you get to make up your own rules as you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have another question actually too, because you guys mentioned, I remember during the whiteboard session about like if they're talking a lot, that's a really good sign.
Yeah.
Would you say that's universal? Because I do notice when the girls' English level is a lot lower, they don't necessarily want to be talking as much, or like they're more okay with you leading conversation. Is that a variable depending on English level, or is it always just a sign they're going to talk a lot?
It doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of words are coming out of their mouth.
Okay.
If they are equally engaged in the conversation, then that's a totally different ball game, right? So even in this conversation right here, I'm talking the lion's share, right? But Brandon is obviously still completely invested in the conversation. The kid. Now, we don't know sometimes with the kid because we don't see him, and so we don't know for sure if he's invested while he's not talking. But we can assume so because he's paying attention and asking questions about things from before. So as long as all of that is there and they're invested in the conversation, then That's the most important thing. It's when you start to feel it fall off. You know that feeling, right, the kid?
Yeah.
Whenever you're talking to somebody and you can feel the conversation go, ha, 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 like it's just running out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, or whenever they start to check out of the conversation, then cool. Time to make moves.
Okay.
The only exception to that is probably the back to my place bit at the end. If you've taken her to several venues and she's still falling off, she's not that interested, still shoot your shot, right? But hopefully at that point you get far enough along in the date that, like Brandon was saying earlier, just pull the trigger. Don't wait for like the sign. Just pull the trigger. Whenever you get to the last spot, go for it. And before it starts to fall off, right? You don't want it to get there.
Sometimes it's surprising too. Like sometimes it's really hard to read them. Just like, it's like, all right, well, this is probably going nowhere. Why don't we just go back? Like I'm like ready to end the day because I don't think she's coming back. I'm like, well, why don't we just go watch something or whatever, my made up excuse for coming back to my places.
Sure.
And sometimes they're like totally down and it's like, what? Seriously? It's like, oh, okay. I think like Jack was right in saying read the signs, but I think sometimes, boy, the signs are hard to read from some girls. Some girls just do not give them that well. Like,
yeah, because girls don't have good game because they don't have to have good game, right?
Yeah, and like I think sometimes it's like the only read you have is how she's reacting to you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I put my hand on her leg and she's not freaking out. So I think she's into me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the kid, to your question, Coot gives us this. Games like the question game gets a shy or a low English girl talking a lot by giving her the time to think when it's her turn. Yeah, absolutely. Using things like that, using interactive games, ways to kind of artificially boost her conversation. But if you're asking her a question, like if you're playing the question game, so here's your barometer, right? If you're asking questions in the question game and she's just giving you like a yes, like something like that, or she's giving you curt answers, then she's checked out, right? If you say something like, have you ever been to another country? And she says, no. Oh, okay. Right. Well, that's weird, So use that as your gauge.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have time for one more quick one, but I have a call in about 6 minutes.
I don't really have any more questions.
No? Okay, cool. Brando, you got anything?
Yeah, I noticed, like for me, I think everything he said about the date is right. I think one thing you didn't really go in depth into, and I mean, you only have 6 minutes, but I'm just kind of curious what your overall thoughts are, is when you're on a date, you also need to push the conversation progressively from, hey, I don't know you, let's just quick banter, to like, now this is getting steamy maybe, to let's go back to my place, we're both comfortable with each other. How does escalation, and I don't necessarily mean just, sexual escalation, but just escalation in general and progression factor into the date?
So the rule that I've always tried to go for is at the beginning, I try to meet them at about their energy level plus 10%, roughly.
Okay.
And then I try to drag them up from there. And sometimes that's easier and sometimes it's harder. But what this does is it gives a sense of we're doing things more, we're getting to know each other more. Another easy trick, not trick. I hate using that word because people always take it out of context in this sphere. It's not a trick. Another good technique that you can use. Just this is a really good connection technique in any conversation. Is whenever you're talking to somebody, if you can listen to what they say and then say that must have been something, or that must have felt this way, or something like that, where you're using your words to deepen the connection semi-artificially, but also it's kind of natural, right? You're demonstrating emotional intelligence and empathy. So one of the hardest things in the world to demonstrate, at least positively, is emotional and social intelligence. You can demonstrate a lack of them very easily, right? But demonstrating them positively is very difficult. And doing something like this can really bring a connection faster, especially because they're used to going on first dates or second or third or whatever date it is, it doesn't matter. Like they've been on a date like that before with somebody who was more shit than you. So, don't just be less shit than the other guy, but be surprisingly empathetic, be surprisingly quick to connect, be surprisingly understanding of whatever their situation is. I don't mean forgiving or like, oh, you poor baby, oh, right? Like, not that. I just mean like actually listen and understand them. But also, don't be afraid to call them out on their bullshit. Because whenever you know that it's bullshit and you call them out on it, that's also positively demonstrating social and emotional intelligence. It's like, yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But come on, you and I both know that that's just your fucking ego talking, isn't it? Like, it's okay. I'm not judging you. It's just that you're making this version of the story because it's the first date, right? Years ago, I went on a date with a girl, and she told me, and 30 minutes in, it was very obvious to me that we were hooking up that night, right? But then a couple hours in, because I was enjoying the conversation, so I wasn't trying to rush it back to my place. And a couple of hours in, she just, out of nowhere, she just said something. She's like, by the way, just so you know, I never have sex with anyone before the third date. And I laughed out loud. And I was like, we both know that's not true. And she went, how did you know? Like, again, so calling out all the different parts of it that you see. And the more of that you see, and don't ever be afraid to take a shot on those things, by the way, because worst thing that can happen is she says, no, I'm actually really serious. And then you're like, okay, then I have made a mistake. I've misread something. Cool. Now I've learned. You say, really? Because the signals here kind of pointed the other way. But okay, that's fine if you say so. I believe you, right? Who am I to question you? It's not like I'm not your priest, right? You don't have to confess to me. It's okay. Like you can call and miss and still come out on top. So, yeah, I think definitely one of the best things that you can do for escalating verbally is to build those things up, to create the connections through emotional and social intelligence, through empathy. Sympathy is bullshit. Nobody likes sympathy. Don't be sympathetic. Quick primer. Difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, oh, I feel sorry for you. Empathy is, oh my God, man, I know how that feels. It fucking sucks. Empathy is, I've been there, or at least I can imagine myself there. Sympathy is just, oh, that's so bad. That's too bad. So sad, right? Like, Nobody likes sympathy, and it's a complete waste of time. Always go for empathy. So yeah, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and empathy are going to be your biggest techniques for building that quick connection between the two of you and escalating things verbally as well as sexually, right? Because one leads to the other, obviously, right? Now, I hate to cut it here, but I really do have to go. That was an excellent question, and I had to give a bunch of stuff there. So, for those of you still watching, thank you so much. If you haven't done it yet, hey, you guys who showed up late, Coot, Adam, make sure that you hit the like button. It really does help me. And anybody else who's showing up late, if you haven't done it yet, please hit the like button. It really does mean a lot to me personally. It helps me a lot. It helps our channel grow. It helps more people find this stuff and improve their lives. So don't have a scarcity mindset. Have an abundance mindset. Share all this stuff with as many men as possible, and you can do that with one easy little click of a button. So, with all that said, it's time for me to get out of here. And until next week, boys. Oh, wait. Thank you so much, Brando, for joining, the kid for joining. And, Coot, you got it, buddy. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for watching. And until next week, gents, Papa Jack out. You found it.